It was a year of conquest, a year of surrender, a year etched into the British psyche, a year that would shape a nation's history forever. And with William of Normandy came many knights of high birth. One knight would play on our stage, Robert de Stafford, the founder of a new dynasty. A great battle was fought at Stafford to repel the Norman invaders. The consequences of the rebels' defeat would be far-reaching. The leaves of the Doomsday Book, compiled a whole generation on, give testimony to William's fierce revenge. And what of the survivors of William's bloody retribution? He had castles built and poor men hard oppressed. From their slavery came a great earth and timber fortress, a construction of mammoth proportions, which would seal their fate and that of generations to come. This is the story of the changing fortunes of Stafford Castle.
If a castle is to be decently built, it should be girded by a double moat. Nature must provide the proper site, as the motte or mound should be set upon native rock.
The descendants of Robert de Stafford were to become important cogs in the wheels of the new feudal system, owning land from the king by way of military service. In the time of Richard the Lionheart, Robert de Stafford, the third Baron to hold that name, ventured on the King's crusade to the Holy Land. Both Robert and his brother Nicholas perished, leaving their sister Millicent as heir to the family dynasty. Great debt was incurred in the purchase of her son's right to inherit the barony. Crippled by descending wealth, Stafford Castle could not be modernized, nor timber replaced by stone. The family would be politically silenced for 150 years. One man was to change the family's fortunes forever. His name was Ralph de Stafford. A man of his time, Ralph was to become one of King Edward III's most trusted military commanders, acting as his right-hand man, campaigning in England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and in France during the first phases of the 100 Years' War. Ralph's name was rightly feared by all England's enemies, and in 1351, King Edward III created him first Earl of Stafford, a signal honour. In 1347, Ralph ordered that a stone castle be built at Stafford. John shall build a castle on the mound within the manor of Stafford, in length, breadth, and height, with towers, rooms, bedchambers, chapel, privies, chimneys, loopholes, windows, doors, and gates, together with vaulting, according to the plans and orders of the said Sir Ralph. The Stafford's dreams of further military glory seemed shattered when, in 1403, Edmund, Earl of Stafford, was slain by the forces of Harry Hotspur at the Battle of Shrewsbury. Edmund's son was just a babe in arms. Despite uncertain beginnings, Edmund's son, Humphrey de Stafford, was to become one of the most powerful men at court, being created the first Duke of Buckingham in 1444. A prominent commander of the Lancastrian forces during the Wars of the Roses, Humphrey was killed while defending the king's tent at the Battle of Northampton Field. Stafford Castle had been in its heyday. Humphrey was to be succeeded by his grandson, Henry Stafford, the second Duke of Buckingham. The Duke, at first a supporter of Richard III, rebelled and was to pay for his treachery, his son Edward fleeing for his life. But the seed of rebellion, once sown, lived on. And in 1485, Henry Tudor landed with his army and journeyed to Stafford Castle. Here, under the cloak of secrecy, a battle plan was forged.
In the end, a glorious victory was given by heaven to Henry Tudor, the Earl of Richmond, now sole king, along with a most precious crown which King Richard had previously worn on his head. For in the thick of the fight, and not in the act of flight, King Richard fell in the field, struck by many mortal wounds, as a bold and most valiant prince.
Under the Tudor dynasty, the Stafford's fortunes were restored, Edward Stafford being created the third Duke of that line. The Duke's own royal blood and his personal fortune of £20 billion in modern-day terms made Edward a threat to a greedy and malicious king. As a consequence, Henry VIII had him tried and executed for treason. All trace of the once mighty family were to be removed from history forever. The days of the all-powerful monarchy, however, came to a dramatic end with the outbreak of the English Civil War, when Charles I set his standard against Parliament. During the summer of 1643, Lady Isabel Stafford was to defiantly hold her castle against a parliamentarian siege. May the 15th, 1643, saw the capture of Stafford as the war came to Stafford Castle. Upon Thursday, we went to the castle, faced it, and demanded the same, that is, surrender. The old Lady Stafford had betaken herself to the castle. We made a great show of force to induce my lady to admit some of my men to secure the castle, and gave her assurance of all protection for her person, goods, servants, and tenants. But from the castle, they shot some of our men and horses, which did much enrage and provoke the rest to a fierce revenge. Almost all the dwelling houses and outhouses were burnt to the ground. The castle was blockaded, but the Royalists managed to relieve the castle with a force commanded by Colonel Henry Hastings. To relieve their fellows that were besieged in Stafford Castle, against them came the Parliament's forces out of the town, but they were beaten back by the Cavaliers. They had no sooner done this, but lifting up their eyes, they saw forces marching towards them, and thereupon they presently cried out, "We are undone! Away! Away! Brereton is coming with his army!" 22nd of December, 1643, the Parliamentary Committee in Stafford ordered, "It is ordered that Stafford Castle shall be forthwith demolished." The Stafford's male line faltered, the title passing through the Howards and the Plowdens to the Jerninghams of Norfolk. They inherited the Stafford's land, but not the barony. And Edward Jerningham had the castle rebuilt on the old foundations. John Brown of Milford in the county of Stafford, stonemason, agree with Edward Jerningham, Esquire, for the sum of £1,220 to build the second tower of Stafford Castle up to the height of the tower now built, and to build the two towers and all the outward walls within the same 1 foot higher than the first floor in the present finished tower. The object being to restore a building which since the conquest has always been considered as annexed to the Stafford barony. I have no doubt that possession of this castle would be part of the strong case we should still be able to bring forward for the restitution of the barony. Its job done and the barony secured, the castle was gradually reclaimed by the soil, until archaeologists and historians rediscovered its wealth of history. This is where your journey begins.